Okay, B'siyata Dishmaya, we're here in Sha'ar HaYichud, continuing our series in the beautiful book on breathing, Neshama Neshima, soul breathing, right? And we learned how this book came into play, how it came down into this world last time, and what was the reasons that it was written, who's the author, and what is the purpose of the book. And we left off the last class with a question: if air is so needed, and breathing is how we received our soul, and it's how we need to stay alive, more than any other thing, more than food, more than water, more than love, more than anything in the world, we need air just to physically be here. How is it that no one's really investing on this like so much? Why is it that the whole world doesn't really know how to breathe properly? To really empty their lungs out of the poisonous air that's been stuck in there, stale air that's just been sitting there because they didn't breathe properly to get it out, or because the air is too polluted, or improving the air quality, all these different things. How is it that this is not like something that we're all well versed in? So here in this chapter, it's called Klal Gadol V'Yesodi, a great fundamental principle. In order to explain this, we're going to go back to the general principle that includes all. Kol markiv chomri me'arbat hayesodot. Esh, ruach, mayim, v'afar mushash b'yesod ruchani shemenchea oto. Every single physical composition, things that come together, any physical thing is made up from the elements of fire, wind or air, water, and earth. Everything that is in the world are from those four elements, and those four elements as well are all rooted in a much more spiritual place, that spirituality is what's giving it its existence in the world. Basically, everything physical can only exist by way of the spirituality that's inside of it, right? The spiritual word of Hashem that's bringing it to life. Every physical movement that you could make with your body is rooted in a similar spiritual movement. Breathing down here, our soul also breathes up there, right? We have a whole statue of our physical makeup here, 613 parts of our body. So too, we have 613 parts of our spiritual body, and they connect by way of the 613 mitzvot. Right, that's how the Abir Yaakov explains it. So, any movement that we're making here, it's rooted in a spiritual, similar movement up there. This is another thing that Rav Deutsch always used to teach us in Yerushalayim. Kabbalah comes from the word makbil, parallel. It's not just to receive; it also could mean parallel, right? Where what's happening here is what's happening there, what's happening there is what's happening here. If that's the case, then every inner movement causes an external movement. And every external arousal causes spiritual blossoming that is parallel to what's above it. Meaning, right, you start to arouse yourself externally. Like Rabbi Nachman says, if you don't feel good and you're really down in the dumps, get up and start dancing. Why? You don't feel like dancing. Obviously you don't feel like dancing. You don't feel like doing anything. You want to be in your bed doing nothing, right? Netflix and chill. Rabbi Nachman says, get up and start dancing. Why? The external movement of your body will arouse the parallel to it inside the spiritual being that you are. You dancing will cause your neshama to dance and to connect and to be in a happy mood, and you'll be able to lift your spirit literally by way of your external actions. If we eat physical food, our nefesh will receive energy. We eat food, our level of nefesh, right? The soul that runs through our blood, our lowest level soul, it receives the physical food it needs for its spiritual expression in this world. If we breathe physically, our soul will also be aroused and bring to it the spirit that belongs to it. So down here we're inhaling, and spiritually our soul is inhaling as well, the spirit that it needs to bring into it. Because the stature of mankind is split up into many, many, many different levels. Therefore, we can also understand 4 different levels of breathing. So be prepared. Now we're going to go into the 4 different levels of breathing according to this beautiful book. First we have Neshima Gufanit, bodily breathing, aka physical breathing, right? Just breathing, simply put. What is it? When your lungs, they inhale new clean air and bring the inside its wings, right? Inside the lungs, and switches out the blood that is poisonous, that's inside the oxygen cells, right? It takes out the toxic air outwards, and so on and so forth. So too, this is what's written in the books of Sifrei Emet, the books of truth, which books of truth always means the Kabbalistic books. It's written like this: the benefit of air is very, very great. Why? Because it brings life to all forms of life and causes the movement of the blood while breathing the air. When a person breathes air, what are they doing? We talked about this in the last class. There's certain lymphs inside of you, there's certain liquids inside of you, blood and different things, all these different liquids that need to move around and lubricate your body and make things work and keep things flowing, and they only move by way of your breath. When a person now breathes air inside of him, his heart expands, and when he exhales, when we inhale, our heart expands, and when we exhale, our heart comes together, right? Scrunches up, so to say. And then what happens? That scrunching up causes a pulse of blood to leave from it, and that blood pushes the rest of the blood that's already in your veins through the arteries, and everything starts to flow around your whole entire body. So the inhale allows the heart to expand, to fill up with blood and to release more blood, and then when you exhale, all of it is getting pumped out. So that's physical breathing. Now we get Neshama Rikshit. Now we have emotional breathing. When our senses start to absorb that the elements of our surrounding are going to affect us, right? That you walk into a place, a dark alley, right? Now all of a sudden you're going to get scared. You're going to feel an emotion of fear, right? Or you walk into a party, whatever, just giving out examples. This setting, the elements of the setting are going to affect me. To help us or to harm us emotionally. For example, he brings, right? When you go to a certain place and there's like a festive energy, right? They're playing music, there's balloons, there's all these different things, kids running around, carnival games, whatever you want to imagine, right? Or Purim. So then you can find joy amongst everybody that's there. Everybody's in this mood of simcha. Or the opposite, there's vibrations of fear that their source is not really rooted in something that's like the dark alley. There's no real danger there. There could be. You're scared of what you know about dark alleys, but you could very well walk through that thing and nothing would happen to you. 9 times out of 10 that actually is what's going to be, right? But it's a dangerous place, and because it's a dangerous place, you start to sense fear even though there's no imminent threat there. And that all is felt by way of the energy that's there in the place or the people that are there. So these are signs these are messages, right, that are sent by way of codes to our heart And therefore, it's, so to say, an emotional breathing. Because again, right, the breathing and the movement of the blood and everything is coming from the heart. So now when this happens, I am getting this rush that's coming over me, whether it's positive or negative, whether it's happy or sad, right, good or bad, whatever it might be. There's an emotion now that's happening. My pulse starts to change, my breathing starts to change, and that's what's called emotional breathing. Then we have Neshima Sikhlit, intellectual breathing. This comes when we start to understand a certain message. We're connecting dots in a certain situation, and we're getting something deeper, right? I understand here that there's some message that's being sent to me that I'm meant to understand something from another thing, like it's written, Nishmat Shaddai Tevinam. The soul of Shakai, the soul of Hashem, gave them understanding. Meaning sometimes we have an intuition. It's not so much of an emotion that was influenced because of the people around me, that everyone was happy so I started to feel happy or something like that. It's like, no, I have an intuition, a deep message was sent to me right now, and that's causing me to breathe in a different way. It's similar to the emotional one, but it's not an emotional thing. It's something that you understood. It's not just some wave of energy that came by you and now you feel happier or you feel scared. No. There's, right? I just have an example in my head. It's not an emotional thing. Let's say, like undercover cops, right? Undercover cop, and he's about to get found out or something like that. That's not an emotional, maybe the fear or something. He's connecting dots. He sees, oh, look, the way he's looking at me, the way he's behaving with me. If he connects the dots, he sees, I'm burnt, right? Just whatever example I came out with, right? But it's not an emotional thing. That's a wave. It's more of a, from me connecting these dots and understanding the situation, now I'm breathing differently. My breathing's going to change, but it's an emotional thing. And the last thing we have is spiritual breathing. Neshima ruchanit. And this is where everything flips, right? Hi movila elenu pnima nitunim ufshatim ve'al tivi'im. Spiritual breathing delivers inwardly data, simple data, that is beyond nature. Thank you. We breathe in a very intuitive way, by way of the kli of the nefesh, the vessel of the nefesh. But when we become conscious and it becomes clear to us what's happening on a spiritual level, then we're able to connect to the source of that spirit, of that wind, ruach, which means both air, wind, and spirituality, spirit. So we're able to get to the mekor of the ruach, or mitrachekim ruchanit, or mitrachekim imenu lefi b'chiratenu v'yichut ruach. We can get a spiritual breath. What's a spiritual breath? That we get sent internal messages into our intuition by way of our nefesh, meaning by way of our body, right? And when we get conscious of our breathing in that state, that we're receiving messages, we can now either be brought closer to spirituality or be pushed away from spirituality. Like in the emotional scene where I go to a club and everything's a party and everything, like a festivity, so I start to feel more happy and more joyous. Or I go into the dark alley and I start to get signs of fear. So here too, you're going to start to feel something. It's a message that's being sent to you, but very spiritually, and it's a spiritual thing. So it's not about how now do I feel happy or sad or nothing. It's spiritually, do I feel more aligned, more connected? Or is this spiritual energy a negative spiritual energy that is pushing me away from spirituality? And when we're conscious of it, then we're able to, am I coming closer? Am I going away? When you are able to clarify as the breather, what is the best air for you right now? When you don't make a mistake on the signs along the way of trying to understand which type of breathing are you experiencing now, and then you know how to intend and how to direct your breathing, או להתנוצצות ממנה. When you're able to understand these 4 levels of breathing, to understand what you're going through right now, and then to navigate within that, it could be said that you as a breather have tapped into the level of Ruach HaKodesh, or at least the spark of it. According to this ranking, we have the 4th one, the 4th type of breathing, which is spiritual breathing. This 4th level of spiritual breathing, what is it? It is essentially just the root of physical breathing. Again, physical breathing is a physical movement. Every physical movement has a spiritual parallel. So we described 4 levels. Physical breathing meaning just breathing, right? Breathing, the autopilot breathing that we always do. Then there's emotional breathing, where our surrounding and the emotion of the people surrounding us affects us to a way where our breathing is going to start changing. And then there's intellectual breathing, which is from me connecting the dots in the situation that I'm in right now, I understand that there's either something very good about to happen or something very bad about to happen. It's not an emotional thing, it's an intellectual thing, and that causes me to think different, to breathe differently. Or there is the spiritual side, where I get a spiritual message, and I have to evaluate now in my head, is this spiritual message bringing me closer to God or further away? Is this a spirit of tuma, or is this a spirit of ta'ara, this kind of breath that I'm going in right now? When you merit to understand all of this and navigate it properly, you're tapping into Ruach HaKodesh on whatever level. Essentially, this 4th level, what is it? It's the root of physical breathing. So when you're able to connect the physical action that is part of it, the physical breathing, right, to its spiritual source, to the Ruach Elyon, the supernal spirit, the supernal breath, by way of proper intention, then while breathing, you're tapping onto 2 different levels. You're also spiritually breathing, and you're also physically breathing on a much higher level though. Kolel ha'elyon mikulam. You're tapping into 2. You're tapping into the lowest level. You might be on the emotional level as well. You might be on an intellectual level. But if you have the proper intention, you're definitely at least physically breathing while consciously breathing as well. And your soul is breathing. This is a brand new world chidush, novel idea in the world that no eye has really been able to sit on for long enough. So says Rav Bezinson. We are able to breathe godliness. And that's while normally breathing. You can be breathing like every single human being in the world, and you are breathing godliness while they're breathing air. And everything is by way of your power of your emunah that unifies the spirituality to the physicality, the ruach to the chomer, the spiritual to the material, which is the aspect of Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Yud Kei Vav Kei is transcendent. Elokeinu is nature. Hashem Echad. Hashem is one. You have to come to a place where you're unifying your body and your soul. That is the goal of Sha'ar HaYichud. That's why we're learning this right now in Sha'ar HaYichud. And this is the thing, that physically we all breathe. But how conscious of it are we? How much are we understanding that right now when we do a physical breath, our soul is also breathing? And the more that we have intention, the higher level of intake of quality and of physical quantity are we doing with our breathing. It's known that the physical elements are just a garment for their spiritual root. Fire, water, air, right? All these things, they're physical. But they're just garments, they're clothing, they're not the essence. And the foundation, the element of air, is not separate from godliness. Hashem's godliness that's revealed in the world can be found in the air. It's not a separate entity. Physical air, okay, physical wind and air is a garment that is delivering godly energy. וככזה הינו בעל תודעה מושלמת. And when you get to this, then you're now becoming a Baal Toda'ah, a master of consciousness. Havir Sha'atan Noshem, the air that you're breathing, Chayu Mudahu, it's alive. Sorry, go back, now I understand better. Kechazeh Heino Baal Toda'ah Mushlemet. The air that we breathe is transferring godly energy, right? That godly energy is conscious. Air, the air of the world is conscious. Like the Rambam talks about in the beginning of the Rambam, he says that the planets have God consciousness. Says more than humans and less than angels. The planets. So if the planets have consciousness, air also has consciousness. Havir Sha'atan Noshem Chayu Muda v'yetira mizot. Not only is it alive and it's conscious, more than that, it is what's giving you life and giving you your consciousness. Therefore, when we want to connect the elements to their root, the physical elements, the four elements back to the root, it's enough that we should be conscious that they are connected, and then we will be breathed, we will munshamim, we will be breathed. I don't know how to say it properly in English.
Breathe.
Like I breathe and I will be breathed. Like someone else will do it to me.
Yeah, breathe. Inspired.
Inspired, yes. Inspiration is the same word, right? That inspiration, aspiration. In Hebrew it's also she'ifa. My she'ifot are my goals, my aspirations. And that is also to inhale. Lishof. And it's also in Latin, it's the same thing. Aspiration, respiration, and inspiration. Right? So when we connect, when we're conscious that the fact that they are connected, because air is godly air, it's just being presented in the physical world by way of a mixture of oxygen and carbon dioxide and all these different things, right? But it is godly energy. When we're conscious of that connection, then when we breathe, we will be filled with the breath of, we could say it that way, with a godly breath constantly. Godly energy, godly spirit constantly flowing through us. And when you see this later on in the book, there will be proofs and different sources that are faithful, loyal sources that we can trust on from our rabbis and from the tzaddikim of the generations. He's going to bring us proofs of this. So what did we learn here? That the element of air that fills all of the universe, right? Or at least this world, if you want to say, it is a supernal, lofty, godly energy, but it is engarmented, it is brought down in a levush inside physical air. So why is it concealed and not revealed to all of us? We can't even see air, right? Why is that the case? So that we should seek it out. V'chapes ruchi. My spirit seeked out. My spirit asked for more. But what is it? So you could flip it the other way. V'chapes, I seeked out ruach. I seeked out spirit. I seeked out breath. I seeked out air. ובכוח ההסתרה הזאת דווקא תתאפשר בחירה חופשית ושכר גדול למי שטרח למצוא אותה. And because of the concealment, specifically because of the concealment, now there will be the opportunity for free will and a great reward for whoever puts in the effort to connect to that spirit, connect to that breath, connect to that air. Therefore, אין הרוח הפנימית הזאת מתגלה ומתפתחת אלא למי שמושך אותה לעצמו ברצונו. Therefore, this inner spirit, this inner air, this inner breath will not be revealed and developed to someone who does not attract it to him by his own will. So whoever doesn't have a yearning and put an effort to acquire this practice and to acquire this spirit. עד כדי כך ששני אנשים שנושמים לכאורה באותו מקום, אותו אוויר. That you could have two people sitting in the same place, breathing the exact same air. One of them, he does not know what he's doing and he's not interested. He is bringing in secular oxygen, completely lacking any meaning beyond his biological needs, while the second one who's conscious and connected to the source of life, double entendre, right? The source of life, understands that while I am spiritually inviting inside myself the overwatching and the guidance of Hashem in my life to keep my body in existence and my emotions aligned, and to give the food to my neshama, on the same air, I'm getting so many different facets of benefit in my life. Right? It's like a super vitamin. When you're just breathing, then you're taking care of your biology. You're taking care of your anatomy of your body, right? But not more than that. But when you're conscious of it, now your soul is being provided, your ruach, your nefesh, your body, your relationships, your tefillah, everything is changing, your brain, everything is changing for the better. It brings ora v'simcha, light and happiness and joy. It brings aspirations, it brings inspiration, it brings the light of the Torah into a person. And this is the completion of physical and spiritual breathing up until now. Avodat Hashem.